In today's Worship Leader Wednesday episode, we're going to talk about what to do as a worship leader if one of your musicians can't make it to rehearsal. Should they play on Sunday? Should they get a pass? What do you do? We're going to talk about it. So Fuller, I have seen this question asked so many times, whether it's in a group, worship leader group on Facebook, YouTube comments. What do you do when you have a rehearsal scheduled and you expect everyone to be there and somebody can't make it? Should they play on Sunday or not?
That's a great one.
Do you have a hard and fast rule for that? And while we were talking about this, we kind of thought there are two different really scenarios that happen. The first one is you've got somebody who has a conflict, like they've got a work commitment, or they have a child who has something that they need or really want to be at, because let's face it, a person's children is probably more important than a rehearsal, right?
I would think so.
So if they got a son or a daughter at a recital or a game or something like that, or they're stuck in traffic or whatever. And the other scenario is you've got a person who's sort of consistently just kind of flakes on you and doesn't show up, or they show up really late. So we kind of felt like there are two different situations to address. Yeah. And in this video, we're gonna we might tackle them both, but we figured we'd start with what the person who has a commitment, and it's they can't be there because of a work commitment or something. Yeah. So what do we do?
I have a general philosophy, and it's this.
Okay.
If you don't rehearse, you're not on stage on Sunday.
Okay.
And that's just for consistency, that's just for quality control, and that's just to raise the standard.
Yeah.
However, there are going to be times when you have to back off that stance.
Yeah.
Because you can't be legalistic about anything in life if you want to be happy. And so I think that you have to have grace, you have to have flexibility, but you also have to balance what is the purpose of a rehearsal.
Yeah.
So here's what typically happens for us. If there is something else going on, like maybe there's a state fair comes to town, and a lot of your people are going to be there.
Okay.
Then you just know right off the bat, we're just going to cancel rehearsal that weekend because half our people aren't going to be able to make it. Right. Yeah. So there's those scenarios. But when you get to the scenario of your drummer's hey, my kid has something this Wednesday, I can't do rehearsal. Yeah. Well, hopefully you've built a culture where that's not happening on the day of the rehearsal. Yes. So he's not telling you 2 hours before it starts, because that's a lack of planning.
Yeah.
And so typically for us, I know a few days before.
Yeah.
It might be Monday where someone calls and say, hey, work called, I got to work Monday night.
Yeah.
And that gives us a couple days to figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
If it's someone who's leading a song and I need them at rehearsal, what I'll do is I'll tell you what, why don't you take this weekend off?
Yeah.
We'll flip you with someone else and we'll switch, because I need whoever's leading the song to be at rehearsal.
Right.
Or a second scenario is maybe you don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
This is the person. Then what I might do, and I've done this on occasion, is I've said, okay, you can't rehearse Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Could you come in Thursday and just work with me?
Yeah.
So that I'll rehearse the band Wednesday night with everyone else, and then I'll tell everyone, hey, Susie couldn't make it tonight because she's got this big thing at work. Let's support her. Let's pray for her. Susie's going to come in tomorrow with me on Thursday, and we're going to go through this, make sure she learned everything, and we're all good to go.
Yeah.
So there's that scenario. Rarely will I be don't worry about it. Just show up on Sunday.
Show up on Sunday, yeah.
I think that creates dissension on your team. It makes other people go, well, then why am I here? Because I canceled something to be here. And so if it's not an emergency,
it's dangerous.
You start going down that slope, and then before you know it, don't worry about it. So what we do is we just have, most of our people will call me and say, I can't make it. Do you think you could find somebody to cover me?
Yeah.
Because they know I'm just going to be just take the weekend off.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in a situation, I've been in the situation where drummer can't make it, bass player can't make it, and I ain't got nobody else.
Yeah.
So then what I'll do is I'm just going to cancel rehearsal for everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna send out everyone an email. Guys, here's the deal. Because of some scheduling conflicts, we're not able to rehearse tonight, so I need you to come super prepared Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And then we all kind of go, and we start earlier on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we might, instead of starting at 6:15, we'll start at 5:30. You know, so there's a price.
That's true.
There's a price.
5:30 in the morning, by the way.
5:30 a.m. There's a
happens.
price to pay, but we all pay it together.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the person feels the weight.
So you went through your process. There's 3 things that I really heard on that. One is respect. So if you're a worship leader and you and somebody says they can't make it, and you just say just show up Sunday, it does show a lack of respect for everybody else who's there. Because they, like you said, they may have canceled something or moved something. It's always a sacrifice.
Everyone's sacrificing.
You know, if you're going to show a given night of your week up, you're sacrificing something. If you have a family, at the least it's time with your family. So it does show a lack of respect. Mm-hmm. And so there's that aspect. The second thing that I heard was communication. So communication with, and to stress to your team, if you can't make it, please communicate with me.
Yeah.
Ahead of time so that we can make arrangements, whatever those may be. And it's going to look different for every church too. If you have a large roster of musicians, you can just find a replacement. If you don't, maybe you reschedule things. Yeah. But the third thing was grace. Like, don't come hard on truth. Like, you know our policy. If you can't make it, you're off. So
just put yourself in their
but
shoes.
You
put yourself in their shoes.
Grace.
And that's the thing.
And
it's like
kindness, and
you know the difference between if you've had a person that's played 19 Sundays in a row, and then finally his son has something. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, of course you got. But if you got somebody that like is constantly coming up with excuses.
Okay, so now we're switching.
So now we're switching over.
Direction.
Yeah,
we're
now we're
talk
switching
about
over.
What do we do with a person who flakes on you a lot?
Yeah, there's always trends with people, especially musicians. They have trends.
Yeah.
There's one guy that shows up not prepared all the time.
Yeah.
Or there's one person that's habitually late.
Yeah.
You know, and so
a lot of musicians.
You just have to deal with it on a one-on-one basis. Mm-hmm. But here's what I say: if you have a clear standard, if you have a clear expectation, and they're not meeting it, then that's an easy conversation.
You gotta have a talk.
You just sit down with them saying, "Hey, listen, you're not meeting the expectation that we agreed on, that we talked about."
Yeah.
And then from there, it's like, can you walk with them? Can you journey with them to get them where they need to be?
Yeah.
There's a few people on our team that struggle with punctuality.
Yeah.
They're not late, but they struggle with punctuality because after the second time they're late, I usually grab them aside and say, "Hey, does this time work for you? Mm-hmm. Is 6:30 too early?"
Yeah.
And then they're either no, or I have had people like, I literally get off work at 6. And it takes me 40 minutes to get here. Yeah. So guess what? That person's always going to be 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
Our team knows it. Everyone knows it. They'll be here. But being on time for them is 6:45.
Yeah.
But we all know that. Now, we have one campus in a metropolis area, kind of Raleigh, where traffic's terrible. Oh, they actually start their rehearsal at 7.
Traffic is
because they realized if they started at 6 or 6:30, everyone will always be late.
Nobody will get there.
So sometimes you have to look at your situation and go, is this the best ideal time?
Yeah.
But having said all that, if someone consistently comes late, I'll just pull them aside and say, hey, punctuality is a value of ours. It's really important. And when you show up 10 minutes late, if there's 50 people here, that's 500 minutes you've wasted.
Yeah.
That's 10 minutes of every person in this room that you've wasted. You're not just slowing us down for 10 minutes, but you're taking 500 minutes away from us.
Yeah.
That's 500. That's 10 minutes he could have had with his son. That's 10 minutes she could have been working extra. That's 10 minutes they could have had, with their grandparents or whatever. And so when you look at it like that and it comes down to valuing, it's really a question of respect and value. When you're late to something, what you're telling everyone else, my time's more important than yours.
Yeah.
And that doesn't fly with me.
You've got to and you have to if you're a worship leader, you have to communicate that to people too, which is like that the first thing you said, you have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
That is so much easier said than done though. Because conflict is hard and conflict resolution is hard. It's a lot easier to hope it works itself out or to hope nobody cares.
Yes.
But if you don't address it, it's just the problem just gets worse and worse and worse. And this is where being a leader and being an effective leader this is one of the reasons why it's not a lot of people can do it.
Leadership is tough.
Because you've got to approach people. You have to be very honest with people, and you've got to be very direct with people. You also have to treat them with grace and love. You have to respect them as well. But you do need to communicate to people like what the message you are sending is. My time is more. And I think when you say it that way, people might not think about it. They might just be late, and that's just
that's how they live. And you got to challenge them.
I struggle with punctuality personally.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of my life, I've been late to everything.
Some people, especially musicians, struggle with discipline. And here's the thing. They're on your team. If you're on a team, the team should exist to make us better.
Yeah.
And so let's push people. Because here's what's awesome. If I serve with a guitar player for 3 years, and at the end of that time, he's a better guitar player, okay, that's cool. But if at the end of that time he's a better dad, or he's a better man because now he's learned how to be punctual, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
That's a victory. And so we're trying, Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. We sharpen each other by having these standards.
Yeah.
These aren't some dictator things that we're just like, I want you here at 6:30. No, we're sharpening each other and we're making each other better by pushing us. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's rare that we have people show up late. If there's not a good reason behind it and it's just a habitual habit, then I would move towards challenging that person, and if they can't step up, then I would help them find a different place to serve because we don't have time for it. Time is too precious, time is too valuable, and it's disrespectful. And I know a lot of people, but he's our only drummer. Then you're letting him hold your ministry hostage.
Yeah, that's
Don't
not good.
ever let anybody hold your ministry hostage. And fear is what prevents us from doing that. What you're saying is, I don't trust God enough to do the right thing. And we're not going to have a drummer. No, God works the opposite. You trust God, you go out in faith and say, Lord, I know that this is the standard you've set for us. This is what you want to do in our lives. You make the move, and you'll be surprised 2 drummers walk through your door the next week. Because that's how God works. God will supply all of your needs. He will give you everything you need to accomplish the vision and the goals that you have that He's put in your heart. And don't let someone's laziness or lack of discipline hold you hostage. Yeah. Free yourself from that junk.
Yeah.
You know, as they used to say in the 70s, free your mind.
That's
and
right.
the rest will follow. But I believe that God deserves way more than that.
Who sings that?
Free your mind. In Vogue.
In Vogue, yeah. Well, okay, so you have to approach...
That's a secular song, Brian. We should not do that on our show.
You have to approach... There's a video about that. You have to approach
Sin.
All of these situations personally. Like, and I think what it allows you to do is also to be a better pastor. Because when you have conversations with people, oftentimes it's not that the person doesn't respect you or the ministry. Yeah. It's a lot of times there's other things going on in their life. Maybe they're dealing with something in their personal life that's distracting them, or that's just that they're carrying a lot of emotional weight elsewhere, or maybe they've been scheduled 50 times in a row and they need a break.
Yeah.
And they need an opportunity to tell you that, and you as a worship leader need to operate with enough grace and mercy and say, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to burn you out. Yeah. You're getting a few weekends off, and even better, hey, how about you have dinner on us and give them a gift card or something?
Seriously.
Like it will allow you to pastor your people when you start to communicate with them. So I would just say, rather than come down like with the hard fist of truth, like, we have a policy and you're not upholding our policy. So
we talked about this.
You're not going to be on the team for a while. Yeah. No, come at it with like, hey, I've noticed that, you're often late. You have, you often don't come to a rehearsal for whatever reason. And I'm just curious what can we do to help you? What's going on? And I think that'll open the door for a conversation that you probably would never anticipate having. Yeah. There's usually more to the story. There's almost always
more to the story. And always assume the best. Our tendency is when someone's late to get mad right away. Oh, they're late again.
And it is
just
frustrating.
Find out the facts first.
Yeah.
Because what's worse than like, I can't believe this person's late, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I was in a car accident.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel this beat.
Yeah.
So just be gracious, like Brian said. Be gracious.
Another thing when you said that, it made me think of something I did one time that I stuck my foot in my mouth and I learned a lesson. I said something about there was a person that was late and I was kind of grumbling about it, discouraged and upset, but other people on the team were there and they heard me and they could, and it turned out that it was something like that, like something happened, and I felt I felt so small. But also, what I had done was I devalued that person in front of the team. So don't complain about people, especially as a worship leader. Don't complain about other team. One team member to another team member like that. Now you're really sowing. I mean, that's I believe that's Satan worming his way into ministry. So I think the main takeaway here is, we talked about a lot in this video.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. Operate with grace. Yeah. Set up expectations and culture, but treat people with grace first, and love and mercy and kindness. Come at it that way first before you come down with anger or frustration.
Well, thanks for checking out this edition of Worship Leader Wednesday. Appreciate all your comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bye-bye.